Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Yomi, Bava Basra Lamed Beis. We are holding on Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, around 8 lines off the bottom of the Amud, and right in the middle of a sugya. We had a question yesterday. Will Bezdin reverse their decision, or are we concerned about Zilusa de Beidina? Meaning, suppose, now the Ritva explains, we're not speaking about a case, of course if it's been clarified, if it's been confirmed that they paskined a halacha in error, of course we'll redo it, of course we'll cancel it. Rather, we're speaking about just reverting back to status quo. Okay, so let's say we can't really confirm the actual facts, the actual story. We don't really have proper clarity. And based on some sort of information, we went one way. We chose one direction. Bezdin did, right? And then some new information comes to light which undoes that initial indicator. But it hasn't yet really provided proper clarity. We don't have full confirmation, but we sort of want to undo. Should we undo what we did? That was the question we discussed yesterday. Because basically all we're doing is really going back to status quo, which we have left, which we have rejected based on that initial information. Do we go back there now, or do we say no? Unless it's fully verified, fully confirmed, fully clarified, we just leave it alone. Zilusa de Beidina, we're concerned about undermining the authority, the image. It's more than image. Bezdin needs to have an authority. Bezdin needs to have, the proper respect. The institution of Bezdin needs to be held in high regard. They can't just diddle-dad or waver back and forth. Is that a concern or not? Rav Nachman did not seem to be concerned with that. He says, look, once we undo our information, we go back. And he has great sources, which is as follows. This now we have a Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer in ma'alin l'kuhuna al pi eid echad. We have a fellow who wants to establish his kahuna status. He wants to be identified as a kohen. He wants to eat teruma. He would like to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. He'd like to be involved in Nesias Kapayim, right? We have one aid, a single witness, who's going to confirm that in fact he's a kohen. That's not sufficient. Ein ma'alin l'kuhuna al pi eid echad. Well, we'll see soon, exactly what happened. What was the Eid Echad coming to undo? What was our perception prior to his arrival? In any case, Rabbi Yehuda says one Eid is not enough. You need two Eidim to confirm his status. Rabbi Lazar comes and explains. What did Rabbi Yehuda mean to say? He's not arguing. He's just explaining. That only applies when we have Oyririn, challengers, those who question his identity. In that situation, we need two Eidim to come and confirm his identity. But let's say we don't have actual challengers. What then? Says Rashbam, we have koil, just a rumor, questioning his status, challenging his identity as a kohen. In this case, we do not require proper witnesses to counter that impression. In this case, one aid is enough. Concludes Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Mishum is quoting Rabbi Shimon ben Askan, one aid is sufficient to consider this fellow a kohen. Now, he seems to have just repeated what Rabbi Lezer said, that one aid is enough. Right? When we have no Eirurin, we have no two Eidim that are challenging, that are questioning his validity. Right? So in that case, one aid is enough to establish his identity. That was Rabbi Lezer's point. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel seems to be saying the same thing. Right? That's the Gemara's kash. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Hainu. He's saying the same identical thing as Rabbi Lezer. So what's the machlokes between these two? Perhaps we'll suggest. All agree. So there's simply a coil, right? The coil is a rumor. 1 aid is enough to undo the coil. If we have 2 aidim challenging the kohen's identity, then certainly you need 2 aidim to counter them. The question is if you have 1 aid questioning his status. That seems to be the machlekes. Rabbi Lezer savar irer chad. Rabbi Lezer will hold that even 1 aid who questions this kohen's identity, who comes and says, well, this fellow is not a kohen, that's considered an irer. That's a proper challenge that undoes his status for the time being. And in order to undo that, you can't just suffice with 1 aid who's going to be machshir, who's going to qualify this kohen. You need 2 aidim. And he says no. Rabbi Shmuel says no. Only when we have 2 aidim who are claiming that he's not a kohen, then we have a problem. Then we need 2 aidim to undo that. But if it's just 1 aid, well, as long as you have another aid on the other side, you're good to go. Is that the machlekes between Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Shmuel? So according to this, at this stage in the Gemara, the Rashbam explains, how are we going to see this machlekes in their words? So he says like this: Rabbi Lezer said, "A masai." When do we say that 1 aid is not enough? That's when you have oirin, when you have even just 1 ma'orer, 1 challenger. So that's his opinion. When you have 1 challenger, 1 aid, you can't counter that with simply another aid on the other side. It's not enough. Whereas the other shita, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds, no. If you only have 1 aid saying that he's puzzled, then all you need is 1 aid saying that he's kosher and he's good. Is that the way to learn the machlekes? No, says the Gemara. Rabbi Yechon had already taught us. Divrei HaKoil all agree. There's no discussion that ein ar or pochos mishnayim. You can't reckon with these types of challenges unless there are 2 aidim coming to undo his kuhuna status. So until you have 2 aidim, we just ignore it. All agree. There's no machlekes on that. So you can't learn as you have proposed, because there's no discussion about 1 aid being ma'arer. There's no problem with that. Ella arer trei. Oh, apparently we have 2 aidim questioning his kuhuna. So that's the starting point. Okay, we have a fellow who we thought to be a kohen. That was his initial status. 2 aidim came and said, well, we know that he's not a kohen. Okay, so that's the story. Now the Gemara will sort of go step by step and explain to us exactly what happened. We're speaking about the following case. We have a chazaka about this fellow's father, the father of this fellow, the kohen, that he's a kohen. And of course, this was the basis for us understanding, assuming this fellow is a kohen. What happened? Suddenly there's a rumor, a koil. There's some news spreading in town. That this son, although the son of a kohen, but problematic because his mother was a divorcee married to the kohen. His mother had undergone chalitza, right? Instead of yibum, she had chalitza, which disqualifies her from marrying a kohen. And they did. They married. So this son is now a kohen posel. So since we had this kohen that is a ben grusha, uben chalitzu, we revoked his kuhuna status. Now Rashbam explains, it wasn't really a permanent, cancellation of his kuhuna status. It was a temporary hold, so to speak, until further, a notice, until they verify further. And in the meantime, he was sort of in limbo. Next day comes along an Eid Echad and says, Rabbi Sai, he's a kohen. And the Bach adds the word Gomer. He's a full, complete, perfect kohen. No problem with him. I'm undoing that rumor, silly rumor. It doesn't exist. Fake news. Vaskini. And as a result, we restored his kahuna status. So he's sort of swinging back and forth. He was in, he was out, he's back in. Now come along two Edom. Oh, you don't get stronger than two Edom. And they are confirming that earlier news. V'amri de ben Grusha v'chalutzu. In fact, he's the son of a Grusha v'chalutzu. He's possible. So they effectively cancel the Eid Echad, because 2 against 1, right? V'achsinai. And we took him off. We revoked his kahuna status. We're not done yet. And he was saved by the bell. Suddenly another aid shows up, who's going to pair up with the first aid to defend his status, to confirm his kahuna status. He's saying that the fellow is a kohen. So basically we're stuck with 2 against 2. So again, he was in, assumed to be a proper kohen, then he was out because of the koil. An Eid Echad came and defended his status, he's back in. 2 Eidim came, undid his status, he's out. Comes another aid and wants to restore his kahuna status. So basically we're going to have to join him together with the other Eid Echad, and basically it's going to be 2 against 2. What happens then? It's a suffix, right? Because it's an equal balance. So we're going to consider him a proper kohen. You know why? Because initially he had a chazaka. The assumption was that he was a proper kohen. Rashbam says when the first aid came, he sort of confirmed that status, and we can just go back to that point. Udukuli Almanat all agree, meaning Rabbi Lezer and the other Tana, agree that in concept we can combine the 2 Eidim, although they testified separately. First aid came the other day, the second aid came today. We can combine them, make them into a pair of Eidim, give them the power of a pair of Eidim. Udukuli Alma Mitzarfin Eidus. So what's the question? What's the shayla? What's the machlekes? Oh, the shayla is, the question is whether we're concerned with the Bezdin's reputation. That's the machlekes. Back and forth and back and forth. Rabbi Lezer Sovar, Kivan da Achsine, Lemeskin Le. Rabbi Lezer holds, just leave him alone. You can't restore his status. You know why? Because once we have took him out of removed his status, we've demoted him, so to speak, because of the 2 Eidim who claimed that he was not a kohen. Too late. Loy maskin and late. Although now we have reason to restore his status because of the most recent aid that showed up, which technically can form a counterbalance to the 2 Eidim. But we don't do that. We don't restore his status. We don't want to undermine the reputation, the consistency of the Bezdin. And again, let's just point out, at the end of the day, we haven't really fully clarified the situation. At most, we have an equal balance. We have 2 Eidim here, 2 Eidim there. So at most, we can just say, look, let them, sort of cancel each other out. Let's go back to his status quo. We don't do that. We don't do that. Because once we've gone down a certain road, we don't reverse direction without, fully confirming the facts. Unless we fully confirm that, in fact, we had gone in error, we just leave it alone. That's Rabbi Lezer's sheet. And that's what he meant here. He says, you can't use one aid. And now we understand what he means. He's going to use the current aid in combination with the previous aid to counteract the 2 Eidim who questioned his status. We don't do that. So he loses the Beidina. But the other sheet, Rabbi Shimon, Ben Gamliel Savar, he holds no. The new aid can effectively connect with the old aid to form a counterbalance to the 2 Eidim who question his validity. And now he'll go back to his former status quo, which is a kohen kosher. We're the ones who demoted him, who will restore him, who's a lust beidin lechashim, not concerned about Bezdin's reputation. Maskef Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi has a kasha on this pshat. If that's the point of discussion here, if that's the subject at hand, whether or not we're concerned with Zilus de Beidina, so why dwell on this very specific type of technical case where it was only one aid at the end, was trying to connect to the previous aid? Well, why is that pertinent to the question of reversing our ruling? Suppose we had the same story, but all the way at the end, the last step, rather than just being one aid, it was two aid who came and testified on his behalf. We'll have the same question. Why? Because again, ultimately, we don't have full clarity because we have Eidim on this side of the equation, Eidim on the other side of the equation, and the question will just be, well, we've gone down a certain, pathway because we thought that it was no good. Now we have to wait, and to undo that, should we just go back to the original status quo? Are we concerned about the Bezdin changing course or not, right? Simple as that. Why get involved with one aid who came earlier, another aid coming today? Even if two aidim would come today, we would have the same discussion. Are we allowed to reverse course so many times? Says Rav Ashi, guess what? Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel all hold that in concept Bezdin can reverse course if necessary. We're not concerned about Zilus de Beidina. And incidentally, as Rajban points out, it was these Tanoim that the Gemara was referring to earlier, what Rav Nachman was drawing from to base his concept of lack of concern, basically, to this idea of Zilus de Beidina. It was these two Shitas, which according to Rav Ashi, both concur that we're not concerned about Zilus de Beidina. The Kuliyam Alecha Shina, Zilus de Beidina. That's not our concern. That's not the topic of our discussion here. So what then is the machlekes between Rabbi Lezer, who says you can't use the aid, and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, who says you could? It's a more basic question. The question of Hilchas Eidus, can we combine two witnesses who had offered separate testimonies? One came yesterday, one came today. Can we sort of join them together into one pair of Eidim? And this really is a machlekes Tanaim elsewhere as well. The Sanya, as we have a discussion in Sanhedrin. So firstly, we're going to discuss something which doesn't really relate to our sugya. One machlekes, and then the second machlekes does relate to us. Let's say you have two Eidim that show up in Bezdin, but they're both speaking from different angles. So they're both saying that Reuben owes Shimon $100, but for different reasons. Reuben says, well, I saw, if Reuben and Shimon that are Eidim, and they're speaking about Reuben, a different Reuben borrowed from a different Shimon, okay? So Reuben the Eid says, I know that Reuben borrowed the money. I saw him borrow the money from Shimon. That's why I know he owes him $100. Shimon, the Eid over here, says, well, I didn't see him borrowing, but I actually overheard Reuben conceding, agreeing that he owes money to Shimon. So ultimately, they're both angling for the same thing, that Reuben owes Shimon money, but for different reasons. Can you combine them and take the sum total of what they're saying and obligate Reuben to pay Shimon that money? You can't combine Eidim until unless they're both testifying the same incident in the same event. Rabbi Shimon Karcha, yeah, you could. Even if they're coming separately, even if they're, the Rashbam says, let's say, he's testifying that he saw him borrow on Sunday, and he says he saw him borrow on Monday, right? Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he owes them money. Okay? So it works. That's one shayla. Now comes the part that relates to us. What about offering their testimony to the Bezdin? Does it have to be at the same time? Or can we stagger it? The testimony can only be accepted in the Bezdin unless both are coming together, testifying together. Okay, so even if they saw the same story, they have to come together and offer it together. So that will be Rabbi Lezer's Shita. You can't combine yesterday's Eid with today's Eid. They have to come as one. But Rabbi Nosson Eimer, that's going to be Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's Shita. You could combine testimonies. Today we could listen to Ruvain's testimony. And tomorrow when Shimon comes to offer his identical testimony, you can accept it. Even though it was a different day. Shemin Dvarov. So, bottom line, this is the machlekes between Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Can we combine these two Eidim, where they have offered their Eidos separately? One says yes, one says no. Continues the Gemara with a story. Reuben approaches Shimon. My boy is by Ara. What are you doing in this property? It's mine. Amalei, he says, well, minach zavinta. You're right, but I purchased it from you. V'hashtara, look, here's my purchase document. Amalei, so Reuben responds, what do you mean, this document? It's not valid. Shtara zayfu. It's like a forged document. Rashbam explains. It wasn't actually forged, but it was written ahead of time, in anticipation of a potential sale. So they drafted this document, gave it to the potential buyer, but it's not really a proper document. It was never really executed. Never really happened. Shtar Zaifu. That was Reuven's response to Shimon. Gochen. Lochash leil Rabba. So Rabba was officiating, was the dayan there. So Shimon bent down and he quietly whispered to Rabba, actually, that's true. I must admit, shtar zaifu, it's not a valid shtar. Miu, but you should know, shtar ma'al yohavali. I once did have a proper shtar. I really purchased this property with a proper document, but I misplaced the documents. I figured, okay, better than nothing. Let me pull out that old shtar. I figured, let me grab something in my hand. Go do at least something to prove ownership. So basically, he's conceding to the technical claim, but he's not really backing off. Right? He's conceding that the shtar is not valid, but he's not backing off from his claim of ownership. Rabba says he's right. We have to believe him that he purchased the property, because if he would have wanted to, he could have lied. Malay Shaka, why would he have to lie this way? If he wanted, he could have just said, it's a proper shtar. He could have denied the whole questionability about the shtar. Shtar Mali, it's a proper valid shtar. So you have to believe him that he purchased the field. Amalei Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef didn't accept this. Why? Amai Samchas. At the end of the day, what are you relying on? What's his proof of ownership? Ahashtora. It's this shtar in his hand. And he's agreeing, he's admitting that's worthless. Ahashtora, this shtar chaspa, it's a pottery, piece of pottery. Chaspa ba'amo. You can't even, migu, I could have said something better. That only works if what he's saying, if his current claim is a valid claim. So I could say, well, trust me about this, because if I would have wanted, I could have used a better lie. Apparently I'm saying the truth. Okay, but here he's admitting that his current argument, his current claim is false, meaning this shtar, which is really his whole power, his source of power. Rashbam says, Kol koyche v'chaskose b'kar kazu adei hashtaru. He didn't have 3 years of chazaka, right? He didn't have the chazaka, so he has to have a shtar. And he's admitting that the shtar is worthless, so he has nothing to go with. So he loses the case. Here comes another similar story, same back and forth involving a loan. Reuben tells Shimon, look, where's my $100? The masiknebach that you owe me. I have 100 zuz claim on you, pay me back. Vashtar, here's the loan document. Amalei, Shimon responds, shtar zaifu. What do you mean? It's a forged shtar. Again, it was written ahead of time. It wasn't really used for a loan. So you have no right to use the shtar. Shtar zaifu. Goch and nachash le Rabba. It's again this fellow bends down and whispers to Rabba's ear. In shtar zaifu, he's right. It's not a valid shtar. Miu shtar ma'al yahavli, but I once had a proper shtar. Virchas and I lost it. I figured in ketabidoy, let me grab something, call to at least something to support my claim. Rabba, so Rabba says, okay, you have to believe him. Malak l'shaka, why would he have to lie? That he, paid him back, right? That he has this monetary claim. He could have, if he would have wanted to lie, he could have lied better. He could have said, it's a perfect star. Right? So that gives him the power of ne'emonis. He's trusted in what he's saying. He could have just played dumb and pretended this to be a good star. Once again, Rav Yosef says, what do you mean? At the end of the day, he's relying on this document, which is worthless. What are you relying on? The star? The star is worthless. So we have two cases, similar back and forth, between Rabbi who trusted him, or Yosef who negated him. Amar of Idi bar Abin, what's the halacha? Hilchas say the Rabba Ba'ara. As Ram explains, Rabbi Yehuda bar Abin was not sure how to proceed. It was a suffix. So it's status quo. So when it comes to the first case of the property, we would paskin like Rabbah. And the Gemara will explain in a minute why. When it comes to the monetary issue, the loan, we go with Rabbi Yosef that the alleged borrower does not have to pay back. Why? Hilchasa kirabba ba'ara. When it comes to the question of the property ownership, we go with Rabbah, which basically means that we allow the current possessor to stay in there. Why? The heicha, the kaima, ara teika. We leave the ara, the property, wherever it is. Meaning he's on it, he's a muhsak, he's in possession, we leave it there. We have no power to take it away from him. On the other hand, when it comes to the money, it goes the other way. When it comes to the money, the loan question, we go with Rabbi Yosef. That what? That he does not have to pay him back. But once again, we work with chazaka. You have your money, keep it. Deicha, the kaimi, zuzi, look, wherever the money is, it stays there. Continues the Gemara. We have a uriv, a co-signer, a guarantor. He guaranteed the loan. And apparently the loiva defaulted. And the malva went to the uriv and forced him to pay up, the $100. So now he turns to the loiva. Can you please compensate me for the 100 zuz that I paid to the lender on your behalf? Here's the loan document. Rashbam explains. The lender transferred the loan document to the Uriv. He's going to use that. That's the way it works. He uses that shtar to collect from the Leiva. He sort of takes over for the Malva. He assumes the status of a Malva because he paid off the Leiva's loan. So the borrower turns to the Uriv. He says, what do you mean? I already paid you off for that. He says, actually you're right, but lav hadras shechlesinu minoi, but don't you remember that you took that money back from me? So basically, Ruvain was the lender who lent Shimon money. Shimon is the Levi. Levi was the Arev. Shimon defaulted. Levi paid up the $100 to Ruvain. Ruvain transferred that same loan document to Levi, who's going to use that to collect from Shimon. Levi approaches Shimon. Can you please pay me back my money? Shimon says, I paid you already. Levi says, you're right, but right away you took back the money. You needed the money, I relent it to you. Lav hadras shaklesinu minayu, and that's why I decided to use this shtar, pretending as though this shtar would represent that second loan. It's a brand new loan. Sholcha Ravidi bar Abin, Kameda Abaye. So Ravidi bar Abin asked Abaye how to deal with this. What should we do with this? Because basically, he's still claiming that he's owed the money, but he basically pulled the rug out from under his feet because he admitted that the shtar had already been paid up. Levi did. The Arabs already admitted that Shimon already paid him back for the initial layout. He's just saying that Shimon really borrowed money, but this shtar is unrelated to that new incident. You can't use an old shtar for a new loan, that's right. But again, he could have just ignored that. He could have just played dumb. So it's the same back and forth as in the previous case. Abai responded to him, why are you even unsure? I mean, you already concluded a minute ago, you already told us, right? We're not trying to deal with these cases, so we always go with sort of the status quo. We leave it as is. And when it comes to monetary loans and stuff like that, we go to Rav Yosef that we just leave the money where it is. So Shimon does not have to pay Levi for his claim. So that's the end of the story. And the Gemara continues, but you should know, there's one point to be made. This is only true. The Amarle, when Levi had claimed to Shimon, Hadras, Oisvesinu Minoi. You came back and again, you borrowed the money from me. Basically, it was a new loan. So he's admitting that he had no right to use the old document to collect a new loan. So now he lost it. Aval Amarle, but let's say he would have told him, Hadrasinu Ni'alach. The reason why you owe me money is because, true, you had offered me some money to repay me, to compensate me for paying off your loan to Reuven, right? But upon closer inspection, I noticed that your coins were of inferior quality, and I gave it right back to you. So it's not a new loan. The loan was never repaid. So the shtar is still active, it's still valid. He has full right to collect on its account. But if he claims that he returned the same money, I gave it back to you, because they were rubbed out money, vesumki, or rusty or whatever, right? In this case, he has full right to use the shtar because the shibud, the power of the shtar, is still intact, it's still active. The loan is still outstanding, and this whole issue would not apply. So he looks at the Beit Din. Is that a concern or not? Rav Nachman says it's not, and we have many rayas, right? Several Tanoim, who likewise held that the Bezdin can go back and forth without a concern. We had a machlekes regarding combining Eidim. We had a discussion regarding, a document which turns out not to be much of a document, can that be used as basis for a claim? Rabbi said, yeah, because of the Mali, the Shaka, the Migu, he could have lied, he could have played dumb, that gives him credibility. Rabbi says, no, it's based on a false shtar. Halacha was, we leave things status quo, karka stays there, money stays here, and that took us to the next story of the Arev, who relent the money, and we linked it to the previous halacha as well. All the best to you, and Atzlacha Rabbah.